Hello. Hi. Welcome
Get
dance
ready to
incoming.
eat your heart out, bitches.
Welcome, 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 welcome.
And I just
I
have to
have
say
to. I'm
it.
sorry. I'm
I
telling y'all
have to
right
say
now,
it.
I'm having I'm having technical difficulties. So if this shit seems off today, I'm sorry. My computer's acting really janky. So just bear with us.
But we're
But
here,
yes, doll, we're here.
ready to talk about the the cult classic released in 1998, 7 years later. And before we get started, I did want to clarify something because I didn't really clarify it enough last week. So, Child's Play 3 happened in the movie. It happened 8 years after 2. So if it was the same year, it would be 1998 because Child's Play 2 was in 1991, right? Or 1990?
Nice. What? Child's Play 1 was in 88.
And then
Two
Child's
was
Play
in
2,
91. Two
'91.
was in 990, and then let me check.
Because
I
it was 8 years later, right? Where Andy was 16.
Yeah.
So technically, if we looking at time wise, we jumped to 1998, and then Bride of Chucky took place in 1998. So it was a month before
Okay,
that.
yeah.
That was
So
kind of like,
Child's Play 1 is 88, 2 is 90, 3 is 91, and then Bride is 98.
right. And I think that's definitely what made Child's Play 3 the timeline a little bit off because y'all time jumped ahead to 1998, but
Hmm.
then Bride of Chucky came out 1998. So it was, that little
And I'm
overlap
so
there.
glad you said something because I was watching this yesterday and I knew when I told you, I said there's no way this took place a month later because she gives a specific time frame. And
Mm-hmm.
she said in the movie, I've been looking for you for 10 years.
Mm.
She says it. It's in the dialogue. I looked for 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
So don't know, like, yeah, it doesn't make any sense with them putting it in 98 and then this came out in 98.
Yeah, yeah. I don't. Yeah, that threw a lot off.
Yeah.
But hit us with some numbers. What's some numbers on this
Okay.
movie?
I'm so excited. Okay, so it came out October 16th, 1998, and it made over 50 million, and the budget was 25 million. And at the time, it did receive some mixed reviews. People weren't really ready for Chucky to have like this meta commentary or whatever. So I'm gonna go to some numbers about approval rating. So Rotten Tomatoes has it as 47%. It's a 5.7 out of 10.
And
Um,
I highly disagree with that.
thank
I,
you.
when I saw that, I was like, no, I don't accept this at all.
So most of the critics are saying that it's campy. Lawrence Van Gelder from the New York Times said it was a novelty of bloody horror film built around a malevolent doll carrying the soul of a serial killer has worn thin. It says it leans too heavy on self-referential gags. It's stringing together a series of humorous asides and knee-jerk shock tactics. Like I just feel like this movie is just for the times and for our generation. I feel like the older generation of Chucky fans didn't get it. And I feel like for the younger generation of Chucky fans, it's all they know. So I feel like this movie is specifically made for us, this millennial crowd. This was our movie.
Now, do you feel like this movie was dated? Because I've heard that thrown around a little bit, where it's like this movie was very dated by some of the critiques
I
about this
think the
movie.
only thing that's dated is like the gay jokes.
Hmm.
Um, but I feel like the Martha Stewart jokes are funnier now, especially since she went to jail shortly after.
Hmm.
I think it made it funnier. I think Seed is the dated one, not Bride. I feel like Seed is the one that's more dated.
I agree with that. I agree with that.
But I don't understand why people really like hate this one so much. Like, I guess coming off of 1, 2, and 3, okay, correction. Coming off of the Child's Play franchise and going into the Chucky spinoff, I don't think people were ready to embrace a new character who was so just unapologetic about everything. I'm telling you, this computer thing is gonna drive me crazy tonight. I'm just telling you right now. But yeah, with her being so unapologetic and just like, I'm here and this is what I'm doing, and I don't know. I just, like I said, I just feel like it's a niche franchise after they put Bride in. To me, it's not for everybody.
Hmm.
Like the girls that get it, and the girls that don't.
That's crazy because when Bride of Chucky came out, I don't remember because that was 1998, so we were 10.
Hmm.
I don't remember the adults in my life talking as much shit about it. The adults
No,
in my life loved it.
we rented it because my dad, like, we love those movies. So like when it came out, it was like, oh, we going to Hollywood Video.
It went double. It
Yeah,
went
my dad
double
bought
up and
it.
smash in our house
Yeah,
with video, and I think that's probably where they made a lot of their money
they
with
did.
video
Home
rental.
rental was is very a very slept on medium at this point because
Yeah, yeah,
it's a dead it's a dead area now, right? Because of
yep,
streaming.
yep, yep.
So, but if things that didn't succeed in the theater could completely thrive in home movie rentals,
Absolutely, absolutely.
word of mouth was much more superior. Like social media has, the ability to reach worldwide.
Yeah,
Word of mouth was all that we had. So if someone told you it was good, you went and watched
yeah,
it.
yep.
That's just what it was. You're like, oh, okay, I'm gonna go watch it. Like Scream literally became a sleeper hit because of word of mouth. It had nothing to do with the film
Oh yeah,
and the critics, because everybody hated it when it first came out. It literally was word of mouth and people
yep,
being in high school and telling
yep,
their friends to tell a friend and people going to see
yep.
it.
Oh yeah.
I think, yeah, I just don't think word of mouth gets as much recognition these days as it should. But
Mhm.
I just have always been in love with this movie because, like I said, Tiffany is me and I am her. Like the phrase "big titty goth girl" literally is Tiffany Valentine. So
Mhm.
if you were around during this time and you have the gothy aesthetic, there's only so many girls to choose from, and I'm guaranteed like Tiffany's in that Rolodex of girls that you fashioned yourself out of,
Yeah. Oh
because
yeah.
she wasn't just like doomy gloomy goth. Tiffany was sexy goth. Tiffany was glamour goth.
She
Like
was
Tiffany
so
was,
starry. Like she was. I
yes,
was starstruck when I saw her. Just how just beautiful she was
and
on
and
screen.
sensual,
Yes. Like she
right?
was. I mean, even though she was, she was a freaking homicidal. She was just as crazy as Chucky, but she had that star power for us. Like she was glamorous. Like
I
just
just
so
always feel like Tiffany is the most sympathetic serial killer like you will ever come across, because she has all of this like traditionalism and homespun wisdom
amazing.
and this idea of just wanting to be a wife and take care of her man and all these things, but she's a psychopath.
Hmm.
She's beautiful, she's sensual, she's deadly. Like she reminds me of like a rose with thorns.
Yeah. And she was very dedicated too, because what woman you
Very.
know is gonna go get the doll that their boyfriend transferred his soul into, reconstruct that bitch, and try to bring him back? Like she went through a lot
She went
to
through a
go through
lot.
that. Like that was actually pretty dope. That was pretty dope of her to do that.
But that's how I said how I feel about Tiffany, is that like Tiffany is all of us. Just you fall for the wrong guy.
Hmm. And I mean, a
Even though
bad
she's fucked up
who
too,
don't
all I
love
wanted
who don't love a bad boy, you know?
all I want for Tiffany is just to find a good man. Still to this day, I just want Tiffany to find a good man. That's all I
Yep.
want. But
Yep.
let's get into it. So we open and it's like, a dark and rainy night, blah, blah, blah. And we're in
Mhm.
this like police station.
Yep.
Oh, I also wanted to say that this was directed by Ronnie Yu, who also
Yes.
directed Freddy versus Jason
Yes.
2 years later. No, 3 years later. Um, which I think is another reason why people probably didn't like the movie, because a lot of his like a lot of people don't really like him as a director. I didn't even have a problem with Freddy versus Jason. I wasn't a fan of the script. The direction was fine for me.
Mm-hmm.
But because he wasn't like a horror aficionado, a lot of people didn't like the fact that he was handling such
Mm.
precious franchises, I will say. This is going to drive me nuts with this
Yeah.
freezing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we open up and we're at this police station and we're at this evidence locker and we see like Michael Myers mask and like the chainsaw and like Freddy's glove and like the
Uh-huh.
Jason mask. And we see this guy grab this bag and his name is Detective Bailey. And he calls someone on the phone and says, "Hey, you got my money?" And they're like, "Yeah, I've got your money." And he's like, "Oh, well, you got to meet me here." She's like, "I'll be right there." And he lights a cigarette, and you see his name engraved on the cigarette. And he
Yep.
opens the bag and he tries to look inside it. And right before he looks inside it, someone grabs him from behind and slits his throat. And you pan up and you see fucking badass Jennifer Tilly in a latex skirt, fucking fishnets, filing her fingernails with the shit that she just killed this guy with a fingernail file.
Mm-hmm.
And she steals his lighter, and she's just funny. She's like, "Ooh, cool."
Yep. Mm.
And she grabs the bag and she opens it, and it's crushed up Chucky from part 3.
Mm-hmm.
And she walks off with that badass walk, and then we get the drop of that Rob Zombie song, Living
I
Dead
feel
Girl.
like
And I
the
fucking love that
musical,
shit because
yes, the
it set
musical
the tone.
direction, like the choices, man, they hit the
Yeah.
mark every time a music a song started playing. They did their thing. They did a great job. It was
Yeah.
every song it hit in every scene.
Yep.
And I'm not even a Rob Zombie
So,
fan like that, but he like that song dropping, that was made for her. That song was
so
made
like,
for her.
so you see her during the credits with all these doll parts, and
Mhm.
she stitches him back together. So the iconic look that we have now with Chucky with the stitched face and the
Mhm.
stapled hair is from Tiffany. Tiffany did this herself.
Mhm.
Um, and then we cut to this girl. Well, it's John Ritter plays this police chief, and this guy Damien is picking up his niece Jade, played by Katherine Heigl. And it's a very it's like I said, that's the only part that's dated is the stuff with Damien. Though I
Yeah.
give Don Mancini credit for putting a queer character
Yeah.
in a movie to represent his community. So I don't have a problem with it. I just know how people are. So the jokes are a bit dated, they're a bit insensitive.
Yeah.
Um, but he's coming to pick Jade up for like the prom or dance or whatever, and they make all these like figure skating jokes, like pretty much like letting you know that he's gay, even though he's pretending to be her date.
Mhm.
And they leave and they get in the back seat. She gets in the car, and in the back seat is her real boyfriend, the guy that isn't supposed to be with her. And
Mhm.
they shortly after get pulled over by the police, and they're in the fucking rain, and they make him do a breathalyzer, and the police chief is just like, you're not gonna end up with this trailer trash. And she's like, my mom, like my dad, like all my friends. And he was like, it cracks me every time. Like I love John Ritter, may he rest in peace. But when he said, after you turn 18, I don't care if you go to hell, but for
Mhm.
right now, you're gonna do what I say.
Mhm.
And she kind of like breaks up with Jesse and it's like, hey, we can't do this. I'm sorry. And Damien's like, if I were you, I would get Jade and get the hell out of town.
Mhm.
Right. But then we cut to Tiffany, who is making a pentagram on the floor. She puts Chucky on it, and she lives in her trailer, of course. Um, and she's reading Voodoo for Dummies,
Mhm.
which the For Dummies book, I mean, that's a
I
90s thing.
wanted
Like,
that. I wanted.
to
After seeing that, I'm like,
I
Voodoo for
wish it
Dummies.
was real.
Like, I kind of want that.
I wanted
where,
it too.
where do I buy it? At 10,
But
I was like, I want it.
yeah, Voodoo for Dummies, like the For Dummies series it went triple platinum in my house too.
Yes.
So she does the chant to wake Chucky up, but he does not wake up. And I love when she's like, what a crock.
Mhm.
But she has a knock at the door, and it's her boy toy.
Yeah.
So she don't claim his ass, but it's this guy, Damien, played by Alexis Arquette,
Yeah.
which we love Alexis Arquette. May she rest in peace as well. She was one of the first people on the Surreal Life back in VH1.
Yeah.
And I just always remember her for being so out and loud and proud about who she was and
Yeah.
fighting for advocacy for trans people, and
Absolutely.
also being the sister of Patricia Arquette and David Arquette, Deputy Dewey. So seeing Alexis Arquette in like full goth was like amazing for me,
Oh
and
yeah.
I hope she got her wings. Um, but Damien comes in and he gives Tiff this Polaroid, and she's like, "Who is it?" And
Yeah.
he's like, "Who was it?" And then she's like, "Ooh, you really did a number on him. Was it all bloody? What did you use?" And then she's like, "This nail polish looks very familiar, Dame."
The fact
And,
that she was mad.
and she's like, "You never killed anybody. Did you? Did you, you pathetic worm?" Like, she is a total mistress.
Yes.
And he
Oh
is
my
just coming
god.
over for mommy punishment. That is the
Yeah.
vibe. Like, he's
Oh
just
my
there to get
god.
punished by mommy. Period.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Oh,
Period.
it was great. It was
Yeah.
great.
It's
Like
so great.
the fact that she was mad that he didn't actually kill anybody, and then when you like go back and pause it, that definitely was him. Like it clearly
Yes.
was
It
him.
was clearly him.
Yeah.
And
He
he's
was
like,
trying though. He was trying. Like I
but
gave
that's
him
the
some
thing.
credit. He was
He
trying.
says, I'm working up to it. I'm working up to it. But
Mhm.
as he's talking, she pauses and she notices the doll is gone.
Yeah.
So now she's excited. She's
Hmm.
excited now. Like,
Hmm.
she's moist.
Yeah.
So she tells him, she's like, Damien, can you look under the couch and get my lipstick? And mind you, can we talk about these badass fucking heels she had on? I couldn't tell if they were red bottoms or not, but those heels were everything in this shot.
Yeah.
But she tells him to get on his knees and crawl to her. So I was like,
And
total,
he
he's
did.
totally there for mommy punishment,
He did. And he did it too. Mm.
right? And he crawls and he's like, run his hand under the couch. And you just keep thinking, like, especially because of the first one,
Yeah.
Chucky's under that couch. But no, what happens? Her tarantula falls on his face. Her
Mm.
tarantula named Charlotte.
Yeah.
And he gets up and he goes to her bed and he says, like, well, how long have we been together? Or whatever. And he's like, don't you think you kept me waiting enough? And she says, no. But she keeps looking over her shoulder. She's looking for Chucky. But when she said no, I hollered, don't you
Yeah.
think you kept me waiting long enough? No.
Yep.
And he's all talking about like French and their word for orgasms and all this stuff. And as he's talking, she turns around and Chucky's sitting next to her and she just screams.
Mm-hmm.
And he comes over and starts talking like mad shit about Chucky. He's like, he says, I know you're obsessed, but this is way too much.
Yeah.
And she says, I thought he would make an interesting part of my collection.
Yeah.
And he does, like when he punches him in the face, she says, I wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
And he's like, and like
Right.
throws him on the ground. And I love how she sets him up because she goes, okay, maybe I was wrong. And she's like, do you want to play? And
Yeah.
he looks so scared when she says it.
Yeah. But he
And
still was like wanting to do it.
yes, like I said, he was ready for the mommy punishment.
He was.
He wanted the mommy punishment. So she handcuffs all four of his limbs to the bed. And she's got on this amazing purple corset. And for the life of me, all I want is the little gemmed bow in her hair.
Yeah.
I wish I could have that bow. But she is just looking amazing. And she puts Chucky on top of him and she says, I want both of you to watch me.
Hmm.
And then she starts telling him about Chucky, and they were together before he died, and they were going to get married, and he was the best lover she ever had. And if anybody even looked at her, Chucky would take care of him. And she's talking to Chucky,
Hmm.
and he says that he's not big enough to handle a woman like you, and that head 360s around. And Chucky says it's not the size that counts, it's what you do with it. And he
And
rips his lip ring out,
yes.
and that blood looked really real,
Ooh,
gushing out of his mouth.
it did.
And then Chucky puts a pillow on top of his head and sits on him while he suffocates. And him and Tiffany have a whole conversation while this man is suffocating.
Yeah. He's like, hey, hey, what's
And
going
she's
on?
like, right. And she was like, hi.
Now, at this point in the movie, I must say they did an amazing job with in that like what 15, 20
Yes,
minutes
about 15 minutes.
God damn, I felt like I knew Tiffany.
Thank you. Tiffany
I
is
felt
it
like
was so relatable.
I felt like I knew her, and I'm like,
I got
this is
Tiffany
damn good
instantly.
acting. This is one
Yes.
damn good acting and damn good writing because her character, like her saying who she was in just that little scene,
Mm-hmm.
it told us everything we
Everything.
needed to know. Like if we were asking questions like who is her? Yeah, she answered everything and it
Yes.
was just so damn good. And I mean, we are like 20 minutes in and they is taking care of business.
Well, right. That's really like the call to exposition, right? Whereas nowadays you have someone give you a whole spiel about what's going on instead of just embodying what's going on and you finding out through genuine dialogue.
Hmm.
But seeing them awkwardly interact and then, she's like, I've been fine. And he tells her that she really looks good. And he's like, no, for real, 'cause I thought you were going to let yourself go.
Yep.
Like he's still Chucky. And, she's like, I've waited so long. It took 10 years to find you.
Hmm.
Like I said, this man is still suffocating. And then he finally dies.
Hmm. And
And
this
then he
his body just goes limp.
limp, right? And then he like tells her to come over and she picks him up. And she kisses him. And the
Mhm.
first thing he does is grab her boobs. And I
Yeah,
just said, that's like so
his
Chucky.
little hands just on her.
It's so
He was
Chucky.
so
Like
cute.
he's so Chucky.
Oh.
And we get some, like I said, then we have the whole scene with Jesse and Jade and their love story and the rain and all that stuff, and they break up. And then
Hmm.
Tiffany has made Chucky his favorite meal, which is Swedish meatballs. And looking like this tonight, I was requested that I would be making Swedish meatballs in the kitchen. So apparently I
Hmm.
nailed the look.
You nailed it. Nailed it. Yes.
So she makes his favorite Swedish meatballs and they're catching up. And she tells him, I found the ring you left me on the mantle the night that you died, and I've never taken it off. And he says, what ring? She goes, this one. And he says, oh, that was from this lady Vivian Van Pelt that I threw in the river. And she's just like shocked. She, you were never going to marry me? Because for 10 years, her idea was this was the man that loved me and he's dead and he was going to propose to me.
Hmm.
We'd be married had he not died. And
Hmm.
he laughs in her face.
And then he made it worse. Is like, are you fucking nuts?
Yes.
He does that Chucky laugh.
Yes.
God damn.
And she says, she's like, you haven't changed. You will never change.
Mm.
What the fuck was I thinking?
Mm.
How do you not relate to that?
That hit. That hit deep.
Everybody has answered that text or that phone call or that DM from somebody they should have stopped fucking with
Hmm.
just to feel like a dumbass again. Like it's so relatable.
Every time. Mm.
So she gets real petty. It says she is me and I'm her. And she's like, you know what? Because he says the first thing we gotta do is get me out of this body once and for all. And she goes, no, I like you this way.
Hmm.
She's like, she says you're a little baby, and I like babies. And she starts tickling him, and that cracks me up because he's ticklish. He's a
He is
ticklish
actually
doll.
he is actually cackling.
Is the baby ticklish? Is he? Is he? And he's like, he doesn't see it coming. And she picks him up and she says, okay, mommy's tired. Because this woman built a nursery for them
Yep.
in her trailer,
Yep.
right? And she's like, oh, mommy's tired. And she throws him into the crib and locks it shut. And he gets upset, clearly.
Hmm.
And he's like, he says, you're still upset about this whole domestic situation. And
Chucky
she
is cute.
says,
Hmm.
yeah, and she says, I've been a prisoner of your love. She says, my mother always said love would set me free, but I've been a prisoner of your love for far too long. And
Hmm.
now it's payback time.
Hmm.
And I felt that in my little icy cold heart.
Hmm.
Because given the opportunity, I know I would do that to a couple of my exes. I would. I don't care. I haven't matured. I'm a child. Clearly. So we go to the next day. No, correction. This is the part where I was on board with Tiffany as a character, is because to her, murder is so normalized
Hmm.
that she gets in the bed with Damien. She cries herself to sleep because she says, night,
Yes.
night, asshole.
Yes.
And she cries herself to sleep.
while he's still chained. I was
to the
like,
bed
why she didn't just unhook him to have more room?
because she's emotional.
Man, she was heartbroken. And I
And
mean, I get it.
she grabs the pillow and she like
Yeah.
scoops him over because he's in the way and she's crying, and then you get that great rendition of Crazy,
Mm-hmm.
that rock rendition. But the way that she just like she was like because he was in the way and she was just crying herself to sleep.
Yeah. Mm.
And it's the next day, and we see Tiffany leaving her trailer with this big ass trunk. And
Yep.
you find out that Jesse is her neighbor.
Yep.
And she's like, "Hey, Jesse, can you help me?" And she's posed on the trunk, you know. But she touches it and she feels the hair, and it's Damien. Damien's in the fucking trunk. So
Yeah.
she has to hurry up and open the trunk and put the hair back in and close it.
Yeah.
Jesse comes over to help her put the trunk in her car. And he's like,
Mm-hmm.
"What do you got in here?" And she goes, "You know, a little of this, a little of that." And this is the shit that kills me. She says, "You ever just been looking at some stuff that you just are dying to get rid of, that you're sick of looking at?" That's how I feel about that shit. And I was like, bro, like Dave never stood a chance. He never
Never.
stood a chance.
Never.
Never. Just because I felt that way about an ex. Like one ex in particular, I felt that way about, and I still feel that way about.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm so happy he's blocked. But yes, and she's hitting on Jesse, you know, and she says, "Do you want to get a drink or something later?" And he goes, "No, I have a girlfriend."
Yeah.
And in the midst of this, Chucky is screaming her name and cursing her out. And she's like, "Oh, I'm babysitting, little bad mouth little fucker."
Tiffany, where the fuck are you? He was on her ass.
Bad mouth
Oh,
little
I love
fucker.
it. I love it.
But she pretty much tells Jesse when he turns her down, like, "You need to treat her right."
Yep.
And he goes, "Well, what are you talking about?" She goes, "Like my mother always said, if a woman slaves all day over a hot stove, the least a man can do is wash a dish."
At least.
And she says, "My mother was kind of a philosopher." Like I said, Tiffany has this duality of being a complete psychopath, but in the heart of her heart, she's a traditional woman. She wants to be a wife and a mother and a
Absolutely.
caretaker,
I
but she's just
still live.
fucking nuts.
Listen, I still live by that. I
I
still
stand it. I
live
get
by
it.
that. Like, if I'm cooking
Yeah.
over a
I
hot
mean, I
stove,
feel
at
like,
least you
right?
wash a dish.
Wash
I
a dish.
still live by
Right.
that.
I feel like Tiffany Valentine is like the feminist character we didn't know we needed in a weird murderous package,
Yeah.
because she was really spitting some gems about domestic partnerships in this movie.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right. So he thinks this over, right? And she drives off, and she dumps Damien's body somewhere. And Jade, no, she comes back, and Chucky is playing with the toy about how to spell woman, but he spells it bitch.
Mm-hmm.
And Tiffany comes back and she has this box, and she goes, I'm gonna have to take away your toys if you can't play nice. And the fact that this man really colored pictures of killing her.
Yeah, and he spelled out in the blocks "kill."
Tiffany, to kill Tiffany slowly. Like,
Yep.
he was really playing with these, like, this man colored killing Tiffany. But
Mm-hmm.
she says, "I've been thinking that you're right. Maybe we do need to get married." And he is geeked, and he's like, "I'm gonna treat you like a princess.
Mm-hmm.
You'll never regret this." And she opens the cage, and she lowers the doll in with the veil, and the doll has the ring around its neck,
Yep.
and it clunks Chucky in the head, and it's, "With this ring, I thee wed," which I found out that's actually Tiffany, Jennifer Tilly's voice doing the bridal doll too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the "with this ring, I thee wed," that's her.
Okay.
So Chucky's pissed. She says, "Oh, you guys look so happy," and she throws rice in his face. Like, she's so fucking petty.
Mm.
I'm not gonna say she didn't have it coming, because she was just fucking with him.
Man, and he is steaming.
Like, she really was fucking with him.
Ooh, he was
And
steaming about how he was gonna kill her.
yes,
I've never felt I've never felt on screen Chucky wanting to kill somebody so bad.
so
You can
bad.
taste it. Like, you can taste the
But
hatred.
isn't that something that only the person you love can do, though?
Absolutely.
they take you to that level of
The
like,
thin line between love and hate is a real thing.
right.
Mm.
And she says, well, I'm sure you two kids want to be alone. And she goes to the bathroom and she closes the curtains and she runs herself a bath,
Yep.
right? And she's watching Bride of Franken. Well, she's watching TV and she's drinking her champagne, honey.
Mm-hmm.
She's soaking in the tub
Mm-hmm.
like goals, right? And she's watching a news report and it says that
Yep.
they fished out Damien's body. It's a side by side picture of him as like a total nerd
Yes.
versus
Oh
his
my
like goth
gosh.
look.
Yes. I was like, my gosh, he looked different. That goth really had him
They
looking
did him
cute.
so dirty.
I
They
mean, they
did him
have
so
the
dirty with that.
nerdiest picture. Who
They
you
did.
got think? Who gave that picture to the news? Like
Probably
who
probably
gave
Damien's parents, but I love
Oh
the
my
fact that,
god.
and I said Alexis Arquette was so good, like in her own right, to poke fun at herself because
Mm-hmm.
you're talking to someone who's trans, who's femme, and I think she had just came out
Yes.
and was portraying herself in this movie very masculine because we know Don Mancini is gay.
Yes.
So it was great to cast somebody like that in this movie, but portraying themselves very masculine, not
Yes.
as femme as they were in real life, but just very masculine. And then the bowl cut with the big glasses.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
But the detective says that it seems like it might be a link to this other murder of a detective Bailey.
Yep.
And I love that, the news reporter is like, could this be in connection with the murder of Detective Bailey? And she's like,
Maybe.
maybe. And she's like, can you tell us anything? And she's like, nothing. Like she's mocking them on the news. So you have to ask, how many people has Tiffany killed in the 10 years of Chucky's absence? Because she's mocking them. But
Very comfortable.
she's been doing it. She's a
Yeah.
veteran.
She ain't new to this. She
But
true
then
to this.
yeah, but then she starts watching Bride of Frankenstein and she starts crying because it's the one of my favorite scenes as well is like towards the end where the bride says they would like Frankenstein says we belong together dead because in the movie the bride is a little uncontrollable. Like if you watch the movie,
Mm-hmm.
we know like Frankenstein's more of like the gentle giant in the situation, and the
Yeah.
bride is the more bloodthirsty person.
Yeah.
So we get to that scene, which is such great foreshadowing, and Tiffany starts to cry. And through all of this, Chucky has used the diamond of that ring to etch the wood to break it
He's
and
very
take it out.
resourceful. I mean, the guy he's so smart that if he used this smartness in a different
We're
way,
gonna start calling him Chaguyver because he just be
he be figuring shit out. And I mean, that was absolutely genius of
yeah.
him to think like, I'm about to carve my way out of here, and
Yep.
then boom.
And he grabs a knife and he goes to the bathroom. You get that scene of him pressing his face against the plastic. But he ends up trying to stab Tiffany, but she kicks him
Hmm.
and he flies against the wall. So he throws her TV into the bathtub and she gets electrocuted. And I mean, that's one of the most beautiful scenes in the movie is the electrocution, the overhead electrocution of her shaking and
Hmm.
there's bubbles everywhere. And
Hmm.
he's just like doing all this. Like he's just reveling in it.
Yeah.
He's enjoying his work.
It actually looked beautiful.
It did
When you
look
think
beautiful.
about it, like once the bubbles start flying, it's like,
Yeah, he was like,
ah, like we see a softer side to Chucky, and he's like
he's just
very
enjoying the
vindicated.
bubbles.
He's very vindicated in that moment.
Yeah. But Tiffany dies and he brought the doll in with him. So he starts to chant and he transfers Tiffany's soul into the doll.
Hmm.
And she wakes up in the doll
Mm,
and she loses her fucking mind.
mm.
And she says, what did you do to me? And he starts laughing. And she punches him so hard. She has whooped Chucky's ass in real life for real.
Yeah,
Like she had no problem throwing hands quickly.
and she
And
was
he
like a
laughs
tad
and
bit
he throws
taller
her.
than him too, right?
Yes,
She was
yes,
like a tad bit taller than him. I thought that was cute too.
yes, yes. And he throws the ring at her and says, you got your wish, you're mine.
Hmm.
And she goes, I
Hmm.
wouldn't marry you if you had the body of G.I. Joe. He's like, hey, Raggedy Ann, have you looked in the mirror lately? And And when I found out that they both recorded their lines together, it makes it make so much sense why the dialogue was so flawless and the ad libs were so good because they were together during the whole recording process.
Yeah.
So they actually got
Yeah.
to work together.
Yeah.
But they start looking up in Voodoo for Dummies, and
Yeah.
she sees the heart of Damballa. Now this is where we get some new lore introduced, which I feel like is why a lot of people don't like this movie.
Okay.
So we know that Charles Lee Ray died in that toy store, toy store.
Mm-hmm.
Almost said Toy Story. In the toy store. At no point did he ever have an amulet around his neck. We know this, but now all of a sudden, there's a photo of his dead body in a newspaper clipping with his amulet around his neck.
Mm-hmm.
But he tells her that the heart of Damballa is an amulet that he needs to transfer his soul, which would beg the question: if you knew this, then why did you go through any of this in the 3 movies of trying to transfer your soul if you knew you didn't have this amulet?
Yeah.
Right. And I think that might be why a lot of people got off the train at the time because it didn't make any sense, but I don't care.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was a good plan.
It introduced something, a new plot device.
Yeah, a little bit more tangible.
Yeah.
Right.
I appreciated it. It, like we say, when you think about it in retrospect of like in regards to the first 3 movies, the first 3 movies didn't need to happen, but
Right. But it gives you it gives some grounding to why it would never work in the first place, right? Because it didn't work with Andy.
Mm-hmm.
So he says it's buried with my body in Hackensack, New Jersey. Now, as of now, we know that Charles Lee Ray is from Hackensack, New Jersey.
Okay.
Tiffany is from Hackensack, New Jersey. That's where they met, and that they lived in they commuted to Chicago after they had been murdering people. They decided to leave Jersey and go to Chicago. In fact,
because after so long of killing people, you gotta kind of flee a little bit. So.
Even the red car is even in the TV show at this point as canon that they bought that car together, and that's why she still has the car in Bride of Chucky. She's obsessed. So she goes, okay, well, let's go get it. And he says, well, yeah, I'll steer, you steer now, and I'll work the pedals.
We're dogs.
Dink, and she starts crying, and he just wants her to stop crying. He tells her to shut up, and then she instantly stops crying. And it's like, you shut up.
I love this dialogue between them because it's like they bickering back and forth. Like, it's so great.
So she gets the bright idea to call Jesse, and she asks Jesse, hey, I need you to deliver these 2 dolls to a friend in Jersey. I'll give you $500 now. My friend will give you the $500 when you get there. And all he's thinking about is Jade. And he's like, this is my moment.
This is our way out.
Right.
Yep.
So he agrees to it. And what does Tiffany do? Tiffany said, okay, cool. I'm not going like this.
Another great transition
that
to
montage.
That song. God damn, it was made for her.
So right. So the song is Call Me, right? Iconic at this point. You can't really think about Call Me without thinking about this movie, to be honest. And she, she's bleaching her hair. She's got the Clairol box. She's got the Revlon nail polish. Now, mind you, I have been looking for that particular shade of Revlon polish since the 90s. And it was always sold out back then. And I don't think they make it anymore. Because it's the perfect plum. Right. Damn. And she cuts her hair. She bleaches it. She does the eye makeup, right? She does the lips. She puts the mole on. And she puts on her fishnets, her leather jacket, and her
little boots. Oh, I was like, she getting it together.
And she lights that cigarette and says, Barbie, eat your heart out. And Chucky is losing his damn mind.
Chucky is like,
he's in awe. But Jesse shows up and he sees the note that Tiffany, he's coming in and she's like, and he's like, act natural. So she does this.
I love it. I love that too.
That's her act natural.
Yes.
So Jesse sees him, and of course he looks at Chucky and goes, "Oh." But he gets the note that Tiffany's holding that says "Sweet Face," because she always calls him Sweet Face, and tells him to deliver to Hackensack, New Jersey Cemetery. So he grabs the dolls, and of course he hits her head on the way out.
Yeah.
And we cut to Jade talking to her friend, her gay friend, Damon or whatever, and she's heartbroken. She loves Jesse. She can't see him anymore, but she loves him. And she's talking about, you remember when you were dating that guy and how crushed you were. And he's like, oh, yeah, girl. And he's like, but you might have a different ending than I do because he sees Jesse's van pull up.
Yeah.
So he leaves. Jesse comes and he's like, look, run away with me. We can get married. I've got money. I'm going to get this other money and I'll get a job. I'll put you through school. I'll work nights. I'll do whatever I have to do to be with you.
Mm, so sweet. Like,
And so young and stupid.
so young and
So
stupid.
young and dumb. Oh,
Uh,
to be that young and in love again.
yeah. Let's go. Let's
Mhm.
just go. Let's just leave.
Just leave it all behind.
Yep. Yep.
So she goes, okay, let's pack my stuff before my Uncle Warren gets back. Chucky and Tiff are in the back, and where it happens? Warren is already on the premises. Warren then broke open the back of the van, and he planted some weed in the back seat,
Mm,
and they see it, right? And Chucky says, "Oh God, he's fucking with our ride." So he pulls out the knife, and then we get Tiffany with that great. What are you like, Martha Stewart, with that thing in your hand? Stabbings went out with Bundy and Dahmer. All that meta commentary, that updated commentary. And he goes, who the
oh
fuck
my
is Martha
god.
Stewart? Because Chucky's
Right.
been like a doll and dead for 10 years.
Right.
And she says, she's my idol. And what does Martha say? When you have dinner guests come by and you have nothing to prepare, you improvise. The fact this woman quotes Martha Stewart, and Martha Stewart is her idol, and she cooks and she cleans and she's a homemaker, but she's nuts.
Absolutely.
But she's creative, which I feel like brought out, she elevated Chucky's murders in this movie to me.
She did. She did. Because, I mean, she wasn't wrong about the
No, she
night.
wasn't.
Like, she wasn't wrong. Like,
She
come on
wasn't
now.
wrong at all.
That went
So,
out. That's out of style. Come on now.
so they see Warren coming, and he gets in the back, and Tiffany's up front. He plants the weed, but he hears someone laughing. Tiffany's in the front seat laughing her ass off.
Mm-hmm.
And you look down and you see Chucky down the passenger side on the floor, and there's nails all across the top of the glove compartment.
Mm.
And she says, now. And she ducks. Chucky cuts the airbag. The nails go flying into his face. And he hits the floor of the van. And Chucky says, why does that look so familiar? And I love that reference because it's Pinhead.
Absolutely. That's why it's like, oh my gosh.
It's so funny. And
Oh,
he goes, not bad for an amateur. Like, she's obviously not an amateur.
right.
So Jesse and Jade come back and they're like frantically like cleaning up the blood, and they stuff him in one of the compartments in the van. And Tiffany gets hit in the head with that bag. And they are on their way. Jesse and Jade are gone. They are gone, honey.
Yeah.
But before any of this happened, he called his little deputy
Mm-hmm.
to follow them. So he pulls them over again while they're about to get some food. And she says to him, they call him Needle Nose, but she says, like, why are you doing this? I know you're getting paid for this, but like, can you just please have a heart and let us go? And he goes, it's nothing personal, but the money.
The money. Just the money.
He clearly admits he has nothing against these children.
Yes.
He's just getting paid.
That's it.
I mean, he was doing his job. So, and she goes, I will vaporize you. And she tries to attack a cop. She tries to attack a cop.
That scene was so funny because that like punch she tried,
It's
it
so
was
weak.
hilarious. I was
So
like,
weak.
girl, what is you doing?
And Jesse's holding her back, and he tells her to go get some food. I'll deal with him. He goes and searches the car.
Yep.
Mind you, Chucky's already been in there toking
Mm-hmm.
because it's
They
Chucky.
listen to that hard metal.
Yes, he's in there toking, honey.
Yes.
And he opens, he sees the dolls, he's looking for it, and he's about to open where they're sitting, where the dead body is, Warren's body is, and Tiffany kicks him,
Mm-hmm.
and Chucky throws the weed. So he finds the weed, he confronts Jesse. Jesse goes off on him, and he tells him he's in a lot of trouble. I'm going to go back to my car and call this in. And Jesse kicks out his own tail light like a dumbass.
So bad.
And Chucky goes, okay, I'll show you how to improvise. Give me your lighter. So Tiffany hands him the Bailey lighter that she got from the guy she killed in the opening scene.
Yep.
Chucky is crawling on the ground.
Yep.
He stuffs a rag into the gas tank and lights it on fire. Now, I love the scene with the guy that's like smoking weed in his car because Chucky crawls by and gives him the finger. And he doesn't even like say anything. Like he's not freaked out by it. He just says, "Ooh, that's a rude fucking doll."
Yeah.
He's that high that a doll
Yeah.
flipping him off is like normal, but he's like, "That's a rude fucking doll," which
Right.
kills me because had he had been in his right mind, he'd been an eyewitness, right?
Yep.
But Chucky gets back in the van. Jesse and Jade, well, Jesse's sitting there. The car blows up,
Yep.
just blows up. The cop car blows up. And before it does, Needle Nose sees Chucky and Tiffany waving in the backseat of the van.
Oh yeah.
Jade
Oh
runs and
my
gets in
god.
the van, and somebody gets the bright idea to be like, "It's them. They did it," even though
Yes.
Jade was in there buying food,
It's
and
always
Jesse
that
was in
one
front of his
person. They
Jesse was in front of his
really
van.
are.
Jesse was in front of his van the whole time,
Yes. Oh my
and Jade was
god.
inside. So like nobody was anywhere near that cop car. But yeah, so they get in their haul ass, and now they're looking at each other like the other one did it, which is so funny because like you guys were so in love 10 minutes ago.
Exactly.
Now you think
Exactly.
that something's wrong with the other person,
Yes. Ugh.
and Chucky and Tiffany just back there fucking laughing at him. It's
Man, they
pretty.
is having a good old time. Just a
They
good
they
old
are
time.
they are they're having a very 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 good time. So they then decide they're still gonna go get married.
Mm,
After that, after having all these doubts about each other, they see a
mhm.
chapel. They decide to get married, and
Ooh,
Tiffany and Chucky are having this like
more
heart
bad
to heart.
decisions.
Yeah, really bad decisions. Like they're literally having doubts at the altar. But Chucky and Tiffany have this like heart to heart, and he apologizes to her for everything. He just tells her he's sorry for everything he put her through. And she says it's kind of okay. She's like, I always wanted us to spend more time together and travel, and look at us now.
Mhm.
That's all she wanted was this man, doll or not. Like she's like, fine,
Man,
I'm a doll. I just want to be with you.
she love him. Mm,
She loved him. Even she wasn't even mad that he made her a doll. She just wanted to be with him.
yep.
So Jesse and Jay get married, and they get to this hotel, and they're having a honeymoon. And they're watching on the news that they're now blaming Jesse and Jade for Damien's murder as well,
Mm,
and Detective Bailey's murder because Detective Bailey's lighter got left at the scene where the car blew up. So they're now on the hook for like 3 murders, 4 they don't
but
know about.
didn't they say they found fingerprints on the lighter?
Yes, from Charles Lee Ray, and that they were going to excavate his grave.
Yes. So they like we got to get to that grave.
Right. But Jesse and Jade are just paying attention to them being labeled as murderers, and they're on the run. So they decide they're going to go to bed. But this couple busts in
Mm,
on them,
mm-hmm.
and they are in like they lingerie and boxers, and they getting like real familiar.
Yeah.
And they see the dolls, and they're like, "Oh, these are so cute! Their little wedding dress." And she sees Chucky, and she's like, "Ooh,
Hmm.
go ahead and say it.
And he gives that iconic line.
Go ahead and
Okay.
say it."
Hi, my name is Chucky, and I wouldn't talk if I were you. I love it. Oh my gosh.
I love it too. It's so good. It's so
Oh, and
good.
she was like,
And she puts him down, and Jesse and Jade are like so uncomfortable, but she steals the money out of Jesse's wallet.
yeah, that raggedy bitch.
And Tiffany sees this, and she says, "That slut,
The thieving slut.
that thieving slut."
That's it. Woo. And when Tiffany gets upset, she is
And
like,
she just
hell
says,
to the no.
"She doesn't even she doesn't even deserve to wear that ring." So Jade and Jesse get them out, and Jade and Jesse are going to bed, but Jesse goes in the bathroom. Jade's in bed, and they both call like Damon, right? I'm sorry, I keep calling him Damon. David.
Yep.
Is because Damien, and then there's okay, so David. Sorry, guys. They call their friend David, the gay guy, and they're both saying how they have these doubts about each other. And he kind of points out, well, you both feel the same way. You know your man, he wouldn't do this. You know your girl, she wouldn't do that. But he talks to both of them
Absolutely.
in the same night. So they kind of
He talked both of them off a ledge,
yeah. So they
essentially.
kind of just go to sleep. They'll go at it in the morning, but Tiffany then went next door to that couple's room,
Mm-hmm.
and they're about to get it in. But
Yeah.
Tiffany grabs a champagne bottle, and before she throws it up on the mirror on the ceiling, she waves at them.
Yep. Great, another great scene. Another great scene because the couple is getting it in on the bed, and the wife, the husband's on top, and the wife looks up and
Looks
she's
up,
like,
yeah,
he ain't thinking that. He thinking,
yeah.
she's
And
hollering because
Tiffany throws that champagne bottle and
of
it
him.
breaks and all the glass falls and shreds them to bits.
Great, another great scene. It
And
was
it's a
beautiful.
water bed, so the water fills with blood and it rushes down on the bearskin rug. And Chucky just looks at her and says, "I love
I love
you."
you. I mean, he was just like, I, I love you.
But doesn't every like asshole have that moment where it's
he was
like,
he was
there's no
already
there's no other woman that's gonna put up with you and is
yeah,
into the shit that you're into.
yeah, this is the one. And
This the one.
he was already blown away by her transformation, right?
Right.
So he was just like, whew. And now you can kill with the best of us? Like you
Right.
can
So
keep
she
up with me.
literally like in the past like day, she helped him kill Warren creatively, and she did this kill. So he's like, yeah, this is it for me. So he says, will you marry me? And the woman's finger has gotten completely chopped off with her ring
Yeah,
still attached. And he has
yeah,
to fight off the ring, the
yeah,
finger off the ring to give it to her. And he puts it on her little tiny thumb.
yeah. Oh, so
And
sweet.
Tiffany starts crying and she's like, I wonder if all the plumbing works.
Mm.
And he says, well, I don't know about you, but I'm feeling a little bit like Pinocchio over here. And she's like, oh. And he says, well, I am anatomically correct.
Yeah.
And the dolls have a love scene.
Hey, but you know what?
It was
I ain't
tastefully
gonna
done.
lie. It was so tastefully done
Tasteful.
because at this point, the true love story is Chucky and Tiffany. Like
Yes.
that is the true love story because it's rare that you see a serial killer find his match, and he found his match with Tiffany. Like
Yeah.
this was at this point everything is beautifully done because it's like we already have this background with Chucky. We know his character development, and seeing we see a whole different side of him when
Right.
Tiffany comes along, and they've already established a great base for Tiffany's character where we feel like we know her. We're on her side.
Right. Right.
And to really see them like they kind of re-fall in love again and have this love scene, I felt very happy with this.
It, it,
Even at 10 years old watching this, I felt happy of like, yeah, he got love. He found love. So it was a beautiful
right.
thing.
But
It
like
was
I said, it was tastefully done. It was very unexpected.
yeah.
And I feel like it's funny now because Team America did something similar like years later with the
Hmm.
doll sex scene or whatever. But it was so
Hmm.
tastefully done. They had the beautiful music because this is like
They
Chucky and
had the
Tiffany's
shadows,
score, right?
the silhouette.
Like
Oh, it was
they play the same
once
music
again.
at the they play the same music from the love scene at the end. So it's like this is Chucky and Tiffany's score,
That is
right?
that's why I say the person who was in charge of the music, they did their thing because the music was hitting every scene that they had to do like a something important. They drawed us in like it was great.
And it's the silhouettes against the wall, and to know that whole scene was ad libbed, where she asked him if he has a rubber, and he's like, "Tiff, look at me, I'm all rubber," and she says, "Oh, but I thought you were plastic." Tiff, what? Just kiss me, okay? That shit kills me every time.
Because even though they're dolls,
They're
like
people.
they're still like, hey, do you got a rubber? But I'm thinking like, girl, who he been with? Like, who you been
She
with?
don't want to get pregnant. Like she's like, yo,
Girl, that's your man. You better get pregnant by him. Shit, if all this shit work, get pregnant. Fuck it. I don't know. I'm off the deep end. Get pregnant. Fuck it.
no, no.
Have a baby.
Look, I feel Tiffany. Tiffany was just like, yo, I'm still
You can't
hot.
I ain't have no babies. I mean, I feel it. She
I ain't
been
trying to have
listen,
no babies.
I feel it. But girl. I would have been trying to have a baby that night. After he said, "Will you marry me?"
Girl,
Have a baby. I'm delusional.
no, no. Yes, that's why we all identify with fucking Tiffany because we are delusional.
Yeah, as fuck.
But it's the next day, and it's the next day, and we see a housekeeper come into that couple's room, and the housekeeper is the sister from Hocus Pocus and the nun from Sister Act 2.
I
I
never
mean, from
knew that.
Sister Act.
I never knew
Yes,
that.
Kathy Najimy, the heavyset nun.
I never paid no attention to
She
her.
she's the housekeeper that comes in.
Damn.
You know exactly who I'm talking about.
I know. Mm, now I'm gonna have to rewatch it again.
Yes. Yes, I can pull it up for you. Yes, she is the housekeeper. And
I knew she looked familiar though, but I really didn't care because she was a a character that was like just there, but
but
it's
it's a
like
great cameo, like if you think about it, because
it's
it's
a
Kathy
great cameo.
Najimy.
Yes. Hmm.
Shoot, you can't even see my phone. There we
Barely.
go.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Yes, that
Yes.
is Kathy Najimy. So I thought that was just so funny.
Okay.
But yeah, so she comes in, sees the dead bodies. Jesse and Jade are like, bitch, we gotta go. So they run out the hotel with the dolls,
Mhm.
right? And before they get out, David has showed up. David's there. And
Yep.
he tells them, hey, I knew when you both called me last night accusing the other one that there was no way it could be you two.
Yeah.
And I just had to come and like be here to support you guys. And they're happy, they're at peace, and they're thanking Dave. And he goes, something really stinks back here.
Mhm.
And she says, Jesse, I told you about leaving your dirty socks back there. David said, baby, these ain't no dirty socks.
It's worse.
So he opens up the hatch and he sees Warren's body. And mind you, there is a part where Warren does come back to life and they have to stab him.
Yes, that happened while they were getting married.
Yes, that's
Yep.
what happened. Yes, he
Yep.
pops back up and they stab his ass to death. And
They
Chucky
stab
says,
him.
true classic never goes out of style.
Man, they stab him the fuck up.
Right. So he sees Warren's dead body and he doesn't say anything, but he grabs Warren's gun out the holster
Yep.
and he tells Jesse to pull this shit over right now. And he
Mhm.
pulls the gun on both of them and he shows them the body and they both like start accusing each other again.
Mhm. Mhm.
So David gets out the back seat and then Chucky and Tiffany come to life and they got the blickies and David's overwhelmed. He's flagging down a police officer.
Right? He looking like
Yeah,
he
Dave
cannot believe it.
he can't take it. So he stumbles out into traffic and gets killed by a semi.
Man, that was a great kill too.
It was
Not
this
gonna
juice
lie. Not
everywhere.
gonna lie. It was a great kill because you really didn't see it coming.
No, I
And
didn't see it coming either. I thought he was gonna get away, to be honest.
yeah, I was like, oh my gosh. Like
I thought
what's
he was
like
gonna get I thought he was gonna get away.
man, that damn truck smashed him the fuck up.
Yeah.
Ooh.
And they drive off because Tiffany says, get this heap of shit moving. So they
Yep.
drive off and the police are chasing them and Jade has to throw the doors open and the dolls shoot at the cop car and the cop car runs into a median
Yeah.
and she closes the doors and Jade is just back there like dumbfounded and you know Chucky's sitting up, Tiffany's up front, Chucky's in the back, and Jade's sitting in the back with Chucky, and she looks dumbfounded and he's like, I'm pretty sure you wonder how this happened.
It'll
And Jesse,
probably take.
yeah, and Jesse's like, you're one of those good guy dolls, right, Chucky? I've heard of you, which is
Yep.
so meta, right? Like that they're aware of the
So
good
meta.
guy situation 10 years later. And he's like, yeah, I
Yes.
remember that story from when I was a kid. And he's like, it would take, he's like, if we were to actually make it into a movie, it would probably take 3 or 4 sequels just to do it justice. So
Winking the
fucking
gun.
funny.
Winking the gun.
Right. And
That's them breaking. I
Chucky,
feel like that's almost like them breaking the fourth
the
wall a
fourth
little bit.
wall.
You
Yeah, but
know.
Chucky tells them they have to like get a new ride, right? So you see them driving this RV. He's like, we need something inconspicuous.
Yep.
And they're driving this RV, and you see Tiffany open up this door to get an apron. It's just 2 old dead people just in the closet.
Yep. The off-screen kills also be getting me too because it's like,
Yes.
okay, they had to, of course, you asking like, whose trailer, whose RV is this?
Oh,
Oh,
yeah,
okay,
there you go.
There you go. Okay, they did.
But Tiffany is humming and she's making cookies. She's
Mm.
made Swedish meatballs.
Cause she's a housewife now.
Yeah,
She's a
she's a wife
wife.
now.
It's a wife.
Eyes
Okay,
eyes married now.
I's married now. So bitch,
So she's trying to treat her man right,
I
and
feel it. Woo.
yeah, she's doing Jade's makeup
Mm-hmm.
because they've
The
pretty much the
she
mole.
did the most.
You gotta have the mole. I mean, I have plenty. I have plenty, right? They're just in the wrong place. But
She's like,
she,
be still, babes, before I poke you
yeah,
in the eye again.
yeah, she's so sweet. She's like, I don't want to poke you in the eye again.
So sweet. Oh, I
And
love
she says, I'm gonna look beautiful. And she brings Chucky the cookies, and they're just so cute, and they're giving kisses, and they're calling each other Pookie and Sweetie.
it. And this is a side of Chucky we have never seen.
Never, he has never been nice to anyone.
Oh my gosh. Talking about, oh, love you, Pookie. Like,
Yes,
what?
he says
Charlie Ray?
nobody makes Swedish meatballs like you, Pookie.
Man,
And she
he
goes, "Well,
was,
I hope you save room for dessert." Of
man.
course I did, baby.
Oh my gosh. Chucky was so tender. He was
And he looks at Jesse and he even says, "If I would have known being married would be this great, I would have done it years ago."
years ago. He was
They've
tender
been
as
married for
hell.
they've been married for a day.
He falling off the bone tender on her. Like,
Right.
ooh,
They've been married technically for 24 hours
that is
as
it.
dolls. That's all he needed. He needed that. That's all he needed.
If he would have got some sooner, I feel like he wouldn't have. It would have chilled out a little bit on the kills, but it would have revigorated him. But like Chucky got some, so he like, this is great.
And
Like I've
he got
never seen him love something else besides killing.
he
What
got
is it?
him a good woman, and she got her
Yeah,
man that she been waiting for years. They good, but
he's a good man. He's a
Jesse
good man,
using
Savannah.
use it's a good man, Savannah. But Jesse using Tiffany's logic against her, he leans
Ooh.
over to Chucky and he says, "Yeah, but she's not much of a housekeeper, is she?"
Mm.
Chucky, being an asshole that he is, right? Because you can only be nice for so long, he says, "Hey, Tiff, those dishes aren't going to wash themselves." To which Jade says, because Jesse repeated this to Jade when they first picked her up.
Yeah.
And she looks at Tiffany and she goes, "You were nice enough to cook for him. The least he could do is wash a
Wash the
dish."
dish. That's the least he could do. Mm.
And
And woo! Here we
petty,
go.
petty. Tiffany starts throwing dishes at Chucky, and he goes, "What the fuck is this?"
Mhm.
And she says, "I'm over here busting my ass, making cookies and making Swedish meatballs." And he goes, "What would Martha Stewart say?" Martha Stewart can kiss my fuck Martha Stewart. Martha Stewart can kiss my shiny plastic butt. So I'm over here baking cookies, making
Mm.
Swedish meatballs, and for what? For a man who can't even wash a fucking dish. For a man who isn't even a man where it counts. If you catch my drift. Look,
Ooh.
and she turns to Jade and she says, "Take it from me, honey. Plastic is no substitute for a nice hunk of wood." And she does that with her.
Ooh, I was like, Tiff is not
And the
playing.
fact that I didn't know what any of that meant as a kid, but I do
I
now.
knew it was. I knew it was something. I knew. I was like, ooh.
Because Chucky's mouth is wide open. And he looks at Jesse and says, "Well, I ain't here complaining last night."
And she wasn't. And she wasn't complaining last night. Okay.
And he says, "It would probably take a hunk of plastic, probably battery operated, to get a reaction from you in bed." And he says, "By the way, who in the fuck taught you how to bake?" And he throws her cookie back at her. It's something so magical about seeing a real life domestic argument, because that shit is real life. They was
And
arguing for real, for real.
and I was kind of sort of here for it because that was my childhood growing up. My parents argued all the time, so I was like, it was nothing for me. Of like, yeah, this is normal for me.
Well, see,
Arguing.
I only grew up with my dad, so I didn't. My dad didn't date, so I didn't have him that experience of having a parent that argued all the time.
Mhm.
But being a parent who's argued, like being in a relationship and knowing that those arguments are definitely had,
Those arguments are definitely had.
It's great as an adult. It's like, oh yeah, girl. And they are going at it. And she says, don't you dare speak to me that way. And they're going back and forth. Jesse looks at Jade through the rearview mirror. Jade looks
Mhm.
at Jesse. They had telepathy. And she swings her, she's tied up, but she swings her body and she fucks my girl's whole life up. I'm sorry. This is when I get hurt because Tiffany was so beautiful.
Mhm.
And then she gets fucked up. So she kicks her into the oven.
Mhm. Mm.
And the oven's still
Ooh.
on. So Tiffany's in there roasting.
Yeah.
And
Mm.
Chucky snaps when he sees what's happened to Tiffany because he can say whatever he wants. Don't you touch his woman.
Right.
Right. And he tries to shoot Jesse, but Jesse ducks. Chucky goes flying out the window shooting. And then the trailer crashes. So Jesse gets up. He's trying to untie Jay because there's cords and gasoline and everything. Tiffany's still in the oven,
Yeah.
banging on the door. Now she's all burnt. He
Mm.
gets Jade out and he tells her, go. Jesse jumps out the trailer blows up, and Jade recovers. And this is my favorite part from the trailer is when you hear, hey, beautiful. Because I remember that from the trailer.
Yeah.
But Chucky's behind her. It's his shadow behind her. And he holds her at gunpoint. And Jesse looks up and he sees her carrying Chucky and she's running to the cemetery. He's got her at gunpoint. So he goes back through the wreckage and grabs burnt Tiffany. And Tiffany's hurting. He's got her by
Mhm.
the hair, and all you hear is ow, ow, ow.
Mhm.
So they get to the cemetery. Chucky kills the groundskeeper because they're excavating his grave.
Yeah.
So they've already dug the grave up. And he shoots the groundskeeper and he makes Jade get in the grave
Yep.
and open his casket. And there's just rats and shit in it. And he's like, get the amulet. And she grabs it and she breaks his neck. And he goes, my fucking neck. Like, bro,
Bitch
you dead.
broke my neck.
Like, bro, you're never getting this body back. You're gone. So she gives it to him. Jesse and Tiffany show up and they're going to do a trade,
Yep.
right? And they're walking, and Jade's walking to Jesse, Tiffany's walking to Chucky. And Tiffany just has this moment where she's just like, why can't I ever get it on with a good guy?
Yeah.
Which is ironic, right? Because
Yep.
he's a good guy. But you feel her pain because she really like realized Chucky doesn't give a fuck about her. He's never
Mm.
gonna give a fuck about her. The way not the way
Mm.
Jesse cares about Jade. Because as soon as Jade gets to Jesse, he embraces her, he hugs her, he kisses her. She says, Chucky, catch me. And he lets her fall because he's disgusted by how she looks now.
Mm. Yeah. I mean, she looked bad.
Yeah.
She looked bad.
Yeah. And like he just lets her fall. She done been burnt up and everything, and he don't even care.
Yeah.
So Chucky gets pissed off and decides that he's gonna throw a knife at Jade, but Jesse turns her and takes the knife in the back.
Yeah. Mm.
So they tie Jesse and Jade up, and he looks at Tiffany and he goes, "You know, you ready for this?
Yeah.
This is it. We're really gonna do this. We're gonna be human again."
Yep.
And she tells him to kiss her, and she pulls a knife out of his pocket and she stabs him.
Mm.
And she says, "Chucky, you don't understand. We belong dead together."
We belong dead. Mm. That foreshadowing was a
And
mug.
she,
Mm.
yeah, and she thinks she's done a good thing, and she's about to let Jade and Jesse go, but of course Chucky gets up and hits her in the head with a shovel,
Oh.
and they have that awesome shovel fight
Yes.
where
Oh.
they're giving each other the business. Like it was really touch and go because they was really fighting with those shovels.
Yeah.
And she bites Chucky's hands. That shit's
Mm.
funny. She's like they're fighting dirty, and he gets
Yeah.
the upper hand on her because she's choking him. Like she's going to
Yep.
kill him,
Yep.
and I believe she would have killed him,
Yep.
but he ends up stabbing her. And she says, "My mother always told me love would set me free." And he tells her to get off his knife,
Get off my knife.
right? And then
Mm.
Jesse comes through with the Tiger Woods swing and he pitches his ass with the shovel into the grave.
Yeah.
And they pull up the ladder. But when he falls in the grave, he falls on top of his own body and he starts screaming.
Yeah.
Ah!
Man, that Brad Dorff, that laugh and that scream is
Yeah,
just something. It does something
it's
for you.
perfection. But
It is.
he's stuck in the grave and he can't get out. And Jade's going to shoot him.
Mm-hmm.
But this police officer shows up and he tells her to put the gun down. So she throws the gun down. And he
Mm-hmm.
looks and he's like, he says, whoa. And Chucky's just like running around.
He can't believe it either.
Right? So Jade just grabs his gun from him and she tells him, don't move. And he says, I'll be back. I always come back. But dying is such a bitch. And she shoots him through the heart and he slides down that casket and he lays next to his own body.
Mm.
And that's it. And the detective calls the police and he says, hey, Jesse and Jade didn't do it. And you won't believe this if I tell you.
They're not at
So
all.
he tells Jesse and Jade, hey, you guys going home, but don't go too far.
Yeah.
So he sees Tiffany and she's dead, right? So he goes over and he pokes her and he scares himself. He like starts laughing out of nervousness, but she starts moving and she's screaming horrifically. And then you see her stomach start moving. And then you realize she's giving birth. And then the baby slides out and the baby has like these razor sharp teeth and the blood gets like all over the detective's face, but then the baby bites him and then that's the end of the movie. But you have to wonder if he got killed by the baby, what happened to Jesse and Jade? Did they get blamed for this?
I still want to know what happened to Jesse and
Because
Jade.
I mean, he did say they didn't do it, but there's no proof now because he's dead.
Mm-hmm.
But I
How
guess
did that baby survive? Like what?
Well, it's a voodoo baby. I mean, the baby was grown in 24 hours, right? It's a voodoo baby, so it could survive. And then we get into see the Chucky. But yeah, I just think it's very interesting that like I want to know what happened to Jade and Jesse. I do. I actually like them as characters, especially coming off of part 3. I think Jesse and Jade, I mean, Katherine Heigl, she's a great actress, but the guy that played Jesse, like, he did a really good job.
He was I was rooting for him. He seemed very authentic too. He seemed
I really like Jesse.
Yeah. I liked it.
So,
I liked him.
no,
I liked him
I
and
love
Katherine
this movie.
Heigl together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love Katherine Heigl so much, and I hate what happened to her career, but I think this movie was so good. It's just one of my favorite movies. I'll never stop loving this movie. No matter how many times I watch it, I'm gonna love it more and more.
Oh yeah. It's aged very
It's never
well.
gonna die for me.
It aged very
Very
well.
well.
I feel like the replay
And
value
it spawned a whole I feel like it spawned a whole fucking just feminist subgenre for horror movies.
Yeah.
Like you may not like you meet a lot of women who don't like horror, but they know who Tiffany Valentine is.
Absolutely.
Right? Like she's the feminine anti-hero. Because we don't really have a lot of those. Like most of our feminine, let's say just female serial killers, right? They're not likable. People don't like them. They're always disturbed or there's always some like abuse that is the reason why
I feel like every woman serial killer is kind of overshadowed by a male.
but it's always from a place of like she was abused and now she's doing this, where Tiffany was like, I just like to kill because it's fun.
Because it's fun. No other reason.
For funsies.
No trauma.
No.
You know, she seemed to come from a loving mother.
Yeah, she's a lot like, she gives me the same feelings of Stu Macher, where I'm just doing it because I want to.
And you know what? Stu needs, he deserves better. You know, we've talked about this before with the Scream.
But I do. I really feel like that's what it is. Like she relishes it. And on top of that, she's not the dowdy girl with her head down or like the ugly duckling. No, she's served. She's serving you looks daily. She's giving you ass, titties.
There was no like struggle. There was no struggle of like, it was just,
no,
she served you.
Yeah, no, they were definitely struggle love because he treated her like shit. But my point is, like, she was so in her divine femininity that she's like, yeah, I'm gonna look good while I'm doing this too. Yeah. Because most female serial killers, you know, They're not exactly like the only one I can think of is Basic Instinct with Sharon Stone. Like she was another one that served like body yada yada. But like
Yeah.
Tiffany was thick. Tiffany wasn't skinny. Tiffany wasn't a girl that got attacked by men. Tiffany was the predator, not the prey.
Mm-hmm.
She was going to serve you ass, titties, lips, legs, heels. She was going to be in her fucking gown and her boots, and she was going to look good
And
while
she
killing
was
your ass.
very so much
And
in
I
control
love
too.
that for her
She was
very
she
much.
could take
She
charge.
definitely played. She played Chucky like
Yeah.
she was playing Chucky like Lotto.
She wasn't
She, I
like
mean,
she wasn't waiting for Chucky to make the moves. Like she was
no.
like, I'm gonna take charge. So I really, really loved everything about Tiffany's character that we had never known before. She was so impactful.
But think about the fact that this woman had the power to
Hmm.
bring Chucky to his knees.
Absolutely. We've never seen that.
Never.
Not even with Andy Barkley. We've never seen that because it's always been about kill, 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 kill with him.
And even
This
in
one
the next
brought
movie,
him love.
even when you get to Seed,
Hmm.
she still is very much in control. Until the end of Seed, right? Like he's doing everything she wants
Yeah,
because
yeah,
he loves her.
yeah,
So I mean, you can't. You have to. You. I stand. I stand the queen, and I swear, like I said, Tiffany Valentine just was the embodiment of everything that I wanted to be, aside from the killing part.
yep, yep.
But having the power to just bring a man to his knees, men, because Damien too,
Yeah,
that power
absolutely.
to bring men to their knees,
And she wasn't, and I like that she wasn't portrayed as a woman who sleeps around.
because she didn't, and she said that
Wasn't
she
Yeah, like
said
she
that.
wasn't portrayed as a woman who sleeps around or is loose or anything. Like she didn't fit in any stereotype
But
of any.
she told Chucky that with Damien because he's like, "What are you doing with this guy?" And she goes, "I'll kill anybody, but I'll only sleep with somebody I love."
Absolutely. And I love it. And I absolutely love that about her. I like you said, besides the killing, Tiffany didn't have any bad qualities that I
No,
saw.
just a little killing. What did Major Payne say? Just a little killing.
A little killing, and even then, it was within reason.
I don't
It
know
was
if it, I don't
reason.
feel like Damien should have been. Damien shouldn't have got killed. That poor man. He just wanted he just wanted some mommy time.
Well, she didn't kill him. That was Chucky.
But she set him up to get killed.
Yeah, yeah. He's a very
He
throwaway
was
character.
she
It
literally
was just
said,
a.
I was
It was
sick and
just
tired of when you're sick and tired of looking at something, that's how I feel about that shit. She was talking about Damien. Like she did not
yeah,
care about that man at all.
yeah. I mean, I feel that. I feel it.
Oh my God.
Still trying to figure out where she wrong. Damien had to. Damien was a throwaway person in her life. Like he was just a placeholder for not even. I don't even
No,
think he
but
was
that
a
don't mean you
placeholder
have
for
to kill the. Okay, fine. He was a placeholder. We all have had placeholders,
a
right?
placeholder.
That's the
I
thing.
really, and that's kind of stretching it because I don't think he ever had a chance.
But she was, like she said, she was lonely. 10 years is a long time. That's what she said. But I'm just saying, like,
Yeah.
even your placeholders don't deserve to die, though. Like, did he
Yeah.
deserve to die? And I'm
Mm.
gonna tell you why I say that. Okay, just coming from mistress mentality. So stay with me
Mhm,
here.
mhm.
Coming from mistress mentality, isn't the idea of torture much better than death? Because now he's not suffering.
Yeah. But I mean, he died happy.
I don't. No, he died scared. No, he died afraid.
He
Okay,
never died happy.
he died afraid. No, the torture would be like cutting him off and letting him stalk you. That's the torture.
Mm. Yeah.
But I'm a horrible person. So
You're one way of horrible person, and I'm the other way of horrible person.
that's what
Like
I'm saying. Like
we're
I
the same coin. We're just two sides of the same
yeah,
coin.
like I am here. Look, I am here for a good time, not a long time. So I don't if I'm Tiffany, right? And like just say in the world that we live in, if this was the life that I lived, it
Mm.
wouldn't be, I wouldn't get off to killing people. It would be the ongoing torture for me.
Okay. Okay.
I'm a torture person. I'm not a murder person. I don't believe in murdering anybody. No one should die. but I believe people should be tortured
Hmm.
wholeheartedly. There's a few motherfuckers out there right now that I still feel like I need to waterboard. I literally have a 5-point plan. If I ever was to run up on some people in my past and the purge was real, I already
Yeah.
have the plan together of how this is going to go down for that 24 hours.
Yeah.
And they will never forget it. And then I'm going to let them go and I'm going to let them live their lives missing a foot, or they're going to be missing things they need. I'll put it
Mm,
that way.
okay. Okay. Yeah. See, I'm with I got a few flings back in my day where I'm like, yeah, he could have went. Yeah, he could have went. I ain't mad about that. He could have went.
In the world of like the
Go.
purge and
I
murder,
got a few flings that's like, okay, he can go. He
as
can
I'm
go.
saying, in the world where like the purge is real and like this shit is legal, I'm not saying I would do it now, but in a world, right? Everybody's had that thought, like,
Disclaimer. Disclaimer. Okay. For the
disclaimer. But
disclaimer.
remember little Nicky when he was like, I've always wanted to kill somebody. It's like in
Yeah.
a world, right,
Yeah.
with
In a
free
perfect world,
disbelief here, hypothetically speaking, disclaimer,
Yeah.
where I could right where I could get away with some shit like that. Yeah, I'm more of the toward like the long haul. Like I want you to wake up in the morning and when your nostril is missing, you think of me.
Mm. Mm.
Like
That's the end game that like that's the end game you kind of want to have because that's an impact. That's impactful. So
that,
I
yeah,
get
I want to, every day you wake up and you no longer have thumbs. Like
it.
I'm that person.
Yeah.
When you
I
have to use
feel it.
a colostomy bag.
I feel it. Oh, that I mean that's something. That's impactful.
Because I mean, let's just be for real, right? Not even to get philosophical about it, but like dying is the ultimate release
Yeah.
on all fronts because you're free from everything. Like you free from starvation, from homelessness, from famine, from disease, from heartache, from pain,
Yeah.
even.
You only
So
gotta
to
go through
me,
it once too. Like that's
yeah.
you
So
only
for
get killed
me,
by once. So
to end somebody's life, I just don't feel like
hmm
that's not for me. No, I want you to live a long life
yeah, yeah.
miserably.
hmm I love it. I
But yeah,
love it
and
too.
thank you, Tiffany, for giving us the courage to say these things out loud. People are like, "What the fuck are wrong with these bitches?" Because I just saw somebody pop in. Now they're probably like, "Something's wrong with them. This girl's in a wig, and they're talking about killing people." No, we're hypothetically talking about if we were Tiffany, what impact would be more relevant:
Yeah.
murdering Damien or torturing Damien? That's what we're
Mm,
talking about.
yeah. Yeah.
And for a guy like Damien, that's the kind of person that you keep like on a leash,
Mm.
literally.
And she could have strung him along for a longer time because she had already been stringing him along.
He could have drove her to New Jersey. Shit, like
Yeah. Once he got to the point where he was asking like, "Hey, haven't I waited long enough?" I feel like she could have still made him wait because just the it's like dangling like the carrot in front of the horse.
just sprinkle, sprinkle,
Yeah, we gonna
sprinkle,
keep this
sprinkle.
gravy train going. Like, let's keep it going.
I always wondered how many boy toys did Tiffany have? Because I
Mm.
refuse to believe it was just Damien.
Yeah, I feel like she was that she definitely gave me.
Because we don't even know if Tiffany had a job, right? So somebody had to be like sponsoring her life.
Yeah, she gave me like a dominatrix.
That's what I'm saying. Like someone had to be sponsoring her life.
Absolutely.
She's
Absolutely.
Tiffany's definitely a sugar baby.
Yeah. And I mean, just how strong and empowered she was not the type to take anything. She was having her way with whoever
Yeah,
she was having her way with.
she was definitely a well paid sugar baby. Now she might have
Having
killed
her
a few
way.
of them.
Yeah, like you're gonna give this to me and this I was gonna be and they were like, oh, okay. Like she
Right, but isn't that what you aspire to be at this point? Like knowing what you know now in your 30s, like
she was 100% that bitch
right.
for
We
sure.
should all hope to have just a little bit of Tiffany inside of all
For
of
sure.
this.
For sure. For
But
sure.
we are excited because next week, of course, is Seed of
See?
Chucky. And this is where we get like to wackadoodle off the train,
Yes.
which I enjoy. But of course, I'm gonna leave you guys with some fun facts and some trivia.
Yes.
Okay. So they had to actually have disclaimers on TV that said Britney Spears was not actually in this movie during the trailer
Hmm.
because the first round people were really upset and they were afraid they would get sued because they had a look-alike in this. They actually have a disclaimer in the trailer saying this movie does not feature Britney Spears,
Mm.
right? Um, And on top of that, the role of Pete Peters was specifically written for John Waters, because John Waters, if you know anything about Pink Flamingos and Hairspray, he was the director. He was also queer, and him and Dom Mancini were good friends. And he wrote that role just for him as a photographer because he was
Okay.
such a big fan of those movies. Um. Oh, this is the only movie in the franchise where nobody uses the infamous Chucky good guy voice,
Okay.
right? And the role of Redman was offered to Quentin Tarantino first, but he turned it down.
Mm.
So that's who Redman's character was originally, which I think I would have liked better if it was Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Billy Boyd, who voices Glenn slash Glinda, is also one of the hobbits in Lord of the Rings, which I didn't know for the longest time.
Mm.
So also Jennifer Tilly playing Jennifer Tilly is like the big ongoing joke.
Yeah.
But the person in the special effects crew that gets his head decapitated in the beginning of the movie is actually the real life special effects artist on the movies,
Oh, okay.
who now has a daughter who is a special effects artist on the TV show now.
Mm-hmm.
So, and this movie does not have any mention of Chucky's full name of being Charles Lee Ray,
Mm.
right? Um, and this is one of the first movies that really features a gender confused adolescent, Glenn slash Glinda.
Okay.
So that was a really big deal when this came out. A lot of people didn't understand it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Glenn slash Glinda is actually a play on a movie called Glenn or Glinda, which was a Ed Wood's movie. Don't know if you know anything about Ed Wood, but he was a queer pioneer in film as well. But he portrayed a transvestite known as Glenn or Glinda, so that's where they got the name from.
Oh, okay.
Um, and they actually tried to get Mike Norris to come back in this movie, but he turned it down.
Okay.
So I'm gonna leave you guys with that. There's definitely more that I will share next time. But I thought that was some really interesting trivia that I didn't know.
That's great trivia to know though.
Yes,
I
there's
didn't
always
know.
trivia. There's always trivia.
Yeah.
But I think we did pretty good with like an hour 27. I think we did really good. I'm proud of us.
Anytime we're under an hour and a half is great. Like I'm like, hey, I was because I told you I'm like this is gonna be a long one, girl. It's gonna be a long.
Yes, I'm thoroughly proud of us. And I'm also proud of you guys. We also got some new followers.
Yes, yes. And
Yes.
the last video is doing numbers too. So I'm like,
Right. You guys really love these child's play videos. So like we have some new followers on our Facebook,
I'm
and
like,
we also have a new subscriber on our YouTube. So shout outs to you. Thank you very much.
yes, yes,
Hope you like our
excited.
wacky content, because all we want to do is just share our humble opinions about these movies. Just two girlfriends just talking shit
Yep.
about horror movies.
A lot to
No
say.
podcasting, no male bashing,
Yeah,
no patriarchy.
we might bail bash a
We
little.
do. Only if the movie permits it, though.
Sprinkle a little bit in there, but it's
Only
not
if the
like
movie
I don't hate
is
it.
only if it's relevant to the movie. But for the most part, we just like to have a good time.
Yeah, yeah. So we got a lot to say. We got a lot to say
We
about
do. We
these
do.
movies that are really like we were raised on these movies, so
Yes.
different times. Because I feel like once Seed came out, we were like in high school,
Yes.
and the
Yes.
fact that we're still on this train of like I'm still gonna watch this hilariously outrageous movie. I'm still here for it.
I'm still here for it too, man.
Still here for it.
But with that being said, we're going to get out of here. But please be sure to hit like on this video, share this video. And if you missed our live and you caught the tail end, don't worry, baby Bubba, because we got you. You head on over to that YouTube page, Horror Talk with Niecy and May, and you click, and this will be uploaded within the hour in our Child's Play playlist. And you can also catch up on our other myriad of videos, from Swarm to Motel Hell. You like Scream? Do you like Urban Legend? We have a lot to choose from, and we're just going to keep getting better. So thank you so much, Think and Dink.
Yep.
And we will catch you next week for Seed of Chucky.
All right. We will see
Glenn
y'all
and
next.
Glinda. Glenn and Glinda.
Yeah. I really like. We'll
Bye.
get into it next week, but I really did like Glenn and Glenda, like the internal struggle that they went through. It was great. So we'll get into that
Yes.
next week. So
Yes.
y'all have a great night. Like on the
We
way
will see you
out.
guys.
Peace.
And heart this if you love Tiffany. You want Tiffany to make a comeback, let me know. Because I put a lot of work into this, y'all. Y'all better heart this shit, okay? These lashes are heavy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do it for you, though, because I'm a real one. All
Yeah.
right. Bye.